Back to Bottomline Africa. Now to speak about food science research and speak live to Professor Stephen Runo, who is the head of biochemistry, microbiology and the biotechnology department at the university, the Kenyatta University. 2 weeks ago, the professor received the Royal Society Africa Prize for the best scientific research. This prize celebrates Africa's top scientists who excel in practical research. His work involves the use of plant nutrients to kill parasites, which in scientific terms means controlling parasites using what they call RNA interference, studying the nutrients of these plants and using that knowledge to change the biological composition and make them resistant to weeds. The research is concentrated mainly on sorghum, maize and millet, which are the main food crops around the country. Professor now joins us live on by way of Zoom. Professor Runo, many thanks for joining us here on Bottomline Africa. Many congratulations as well for winning the prestigious Royal Society Africa Prize. Talk to us a bit about this prize and the research that got you there.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you for having me on this show. As you've mentioned, I was privileged to get the Royal Society Africa Prize. And this is a prize that is given to outstanding scientists in Africa who are advancing scientific knowledge as well as in capacity building. And the reason that we got this prize was for some of the work that we have been doing on sorghum, maize, and millet towards alleviating or controlling a parasitic plant called striga. And so what we have done in the last couple of years is to develop germplasm that is resistant to the parasite, and this would allow farmers to produce more food in their fields.
And I mean, it's very timely considering that Kenya and other African countries every year experience a perennial food shortage, and this is largely due to low yields as well. But how then can we use plant science to transform agriculture, protect our crops, and achieve food sufficiency?
Very good question. Yes, so I think if we can be able to leverage research in agriculture, the last couple of years has seen a big explosion in areas of plant sciences. So we now know a lot about plants. We know how plants grow. We know how plants develop. We know what kind of pests attack them. We know what mechanisms these pests use to attack these crops. And so we can use all this knowledge that we have accrued over time to develop crops that are more resilient, crops that are more resistant to pests, and hence more yields. And this does not have to be a very difficult thing because the knowledge is already there. And what we need is to just directly translate this knowledge into meaningful products that can be adopted by farmers. Mark you, the biggest constraint to agricultural production, and not just in Kenya, but in most parts of Africa, are agricultural pests. And so the knowledge that we have of genetics, the knowledge that we have in molecular biology, the knowledge that we have in molecular genetics, we can begin to use that to start accruing benefits of using science and technology and innovations indeed to increase food production.
Right. And you mentioned striga, which is, what you studied in your research. And this is a pink-colored weed that kills maize, sorghum, as well as millet, which are largely prevalent in Kenya and other African countries. But, this research is about controlling parasites. You're using what you use, that RNA interference. How different is this from genetic modification of food?
Very good question, Michelle. So striga, first of all, is a very beautiful flower. You would not know it's a parasite. The blue, the purple, the pink flowers belie the evil that parasite is. And what this parasite does is that it attaches itself on the roots of host crops and then draws nutrients from them and then kills the plant before the plant even flowers or produces grains. And the technique that we have been using, we have been using for the last few years is called RNA interference, and this came from work that we did a little earlier that overlapped with my work on my PhD. And what we were looking to study is interactions between parasites and their hosts, and namely the parasitic plant and its hosts, maize, millet, and sorghum. And what came out of that research is we were able to determine that these plants not only steal nutrients from their host crops, but they also take away molecules or RNA or DNA or genes, to be precise, from these host crops. And so we developed a strategy that can trick the plants into taking these genes. They can take genes that they don't know will harm them. So these genes will stay, or these sequences will stay silent in the plant, but then upon parasitism, these sequences will be transferred into the parasite and then cause harm to the parasite, killing the parasite. It is an analogy that I like to use is the Trojan horse approach. So you know about the story of the Trojan horse. So soldiers go in, stay silent, and then at night, then they get unleashed, and then they conquer the city. So it's very similar to that. So the sequences or the plant genes will stay inside the host, but will not harm the host. But then upon parasitism, and these sequences or these genes will be unleashed into the parasite. So that was a while back, and that was really the discovery phase of this research. But what we have done over time and what technology has allowed us over time is new technologies that are now gaining prominence in the fields of medicine and in pharmaceutical sciences. This technology is called gene or genome editing. So we moved away, so we used that platform to develop genetics or genomics to study interaction between the parasite, knowing which genes are critical in the survival of the parasite. And now, beginning last couple of years, 2 years to be precise, we have gone into the technology of genome editing. And genome editing, because you mentioned how different is it from genetic engineering, is quite different. So this is a way of mimicking natural mutations that occur in nature. And I want to give a really simple example, again using this parasite called striga, the parasitic plant called striga. So striga is a very cunning parasite, and it will only germinate in the presence of a host. So it locates a host using germination stimulants that are produced by roots of the host. Okay, so some roots of hosts are not able to produce the germination stimulant. This germination stimulant, if not produced, the parasite will not germinate and will not attack the host. And so one of the ways that we have learned is to identify these sorghum lines that do not produce this germination stimulant. There are not so many sorghum lines that don't produce these germination stimulants, but we can be able to going into the genome of these plants or sorghum plants that still produce germination stimulants, and then edit or change a few nucleotide sequences in these sorghum genotypes so that they don't produce germination stimulants. And once we do that in this technique called genome editing, then we have striga-resistant material.
And I mean, historically, we've had farmers using insecticides and pesticides really to kill parasites like striga, but those insecticides are also rather harmful to farmland as well. With this research, seed companies can now develop crops that are resistant to parasites based on that same research. What impact is this likely to have on Kenyan agriculture and the continent at large?
Yeah, so what we like to do, Michelle, is to create solutions that are sustainable, solutions that will work for our farmers. And one of the things we want to go away from is to use or overuse of pesticides. So in a way, and we get a lot of support, and you'll see that the technology that we're talking about, genome editing technology, is getting support world over, because one of the things it promises to do, or one of the major benefits of this technology is being able to cut low the use of herbicides and the use of pesticides. And also because the seeds will be cheap, the seeds will be available to farmers. And because these are natural mutations that we are mimicking, then we get a lot of buy-in, and we're not creating different varieties of crops, so to speak.
And I mean, it's a great research that's put Kenya on the world map now. But even as we acknowledge that, how can we further leverage on the massive amounts of research lying in our facilities of higher learning, and how can we then make that practical, information to our daily life?
Yeah. So this is. I hope that by getting this prize, we are able to open up research. We are able to loop in a lot more partners, because this has to move from discovery phase to a translational research that will impact farmers. I foresee a situation that will have partnerships with seed companies. I see situations where a group of like-minded scientists together collaborate to develop varieties that can be readily adopted. So I look at this winning as a way of creating more and more the awareness about the problems that we have here, and also creating awareness of the capacity that we have here, and also hopefully this will trigger, or this will initiate discussions and conversations, as well as dialogues that seek to move this into the next phase. And so in a few years, or in a very short term, we'll begin to see the benefits that accrue from investing in science and investing in scientific research, and creating partnerships that are very strategic and very well formulated to solve existing problems, and not just for a short time, and not just for profit, but very sustainably in the long haul.
All right, many thanks. That is Professor Stephen Runo, Head of Biochemistry, Microbiology and Biotechnology Department at the Kenyatta University. He also just 2 weeks ago received that prestigious Royal Society Africa Prize for the best scientific research. Professor, many thanks. In other news, Republican delegates to the party's national convention are flying to the state of North Carolina this week, where because of the pandemic, there is a scaled-down in-person convention as well as virtual